This is the Social Factor.
Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to the Social Factor. Josh and David.
Hi guys.
Hello. So in this episode, we're gonna be talking about something that David and I have been working together with for quite some time now. I've been in the field longer. However, we've been working together in the field for like 5 years now. And we're going to talk about the paranormal. For those of you that don't know, Josh, I started a paranormal team back in 2009. And I actually started under a different name. However, it was switched to Kukana. It was under the Paranormal Hour, and I switched it to Kukana Paranormal Research Team in 2012. And how I started it was because of an interest in unexplained happenings and whatnot. So, I guess I'll just talk a little bit about how a little bit more about how I started, and then we'll get into. So, I remember that it was kind of I actually started it from a bit of a religious aspect, because a lot of I would always hear stories of like Jesus appearing to people. One of the stories that actually appealed to me as well was a place that David and I went last year during the summer. It was Our Lady of Good Help in New Franken, Wisconsin, and that is a site that is confirmed by the Vatican to be a place where Mary actually appeared to a young woman named Adele. And I would, like I said, always hear about just stories like that. I would read this magazine called Angels on Earth, about angels showing up and helping people and then disappearing and stuff like that. And I really got interested in it that way. So I started a team, and we weren't getting anywhere at first. It was difficult because I was 17 when I started this, and this was in 2009, almost 10 years ago. And after a while, we started to gain momentum, and we're still very much in the field. Things have slowed down just because the paranormal shows are really what help trigger the paranormal field, and like people contacting people to help them with cases, or to help them with their hauntings and stuff like that, or for possible paranormal activity. But since the shows have gone away, so have a lot of the people that are willing to come forward and actually ask for help with their possible haunting. So, while the requests have decreased, we are still active and at it, and we actually do have a walkthrough going on tonight. That is why we are having the show earlier again this week.
And it's also the reason why we picked this topic, because we're sort of doing what we love to do in the first place, and why not share with the public?
Exactly, yeah. Last week we had to do the show earlier because I had to be somewhere at like 6 o'clock, and I said that we were going to be doing the show at the regular scheduled time this week. However, this urgent case has popped up, so we need to definitely be there and put that priority at there. So we are doing the show early this week. So the show will always be on Sunday. We'll put it that way. The show will pretty much always be on Sunday, and will most usually always be at 7. However, there will be times when we can't do a show at 7, so we'll just do it earlier.
Correct. And unfortunately, that's life.
Yeah.
I want to let the audience know, even though you're not listening right now, but you will be listening to this. The background sound is actually Charlie. It's Josh's little dog here that has a bit of a snoring problem. And because I was listening to the last show and I kept on hearing this background noise.
I didn't even realize that.
Yeah. And I'm like, what the heck? And then I remember Charlie was right by my feet sleeping. So we apologize for the additional soundtrack. But it's just a dog that's snoring.
That would be Steph and I's Beagle Charlie.
Yep. Yeah, he's a pretty dog. Very pretty.
Very cute. Anyway, but going into the, I actually want to. I do have a.
I don't get to introduce why I joined.
What? Oh yeah, go ahead.
I don't get to talk about the importance of me. No I'm kidding.
Go ahead, dude.
Right. Well, I joined the team in 2013.
April 2013. It was April
15th.
April 15th.
Yeah, April 15th, 2013. And I met Josh through an acquaintance. And reasons that I joined wasn't so much because I was big into the paranormal. In fact, I was not a fan of any of the shows. The only one that I actually kind of looked at was like Paranormal Witnesses, and it was based on accounts, so it wasn't like these guys going into homes and making all this drama. Okay, it was more of the the cases were being dissected by this production company, and it would take detailed information, and so I really enjoyed that. But I wasn't a big fan of the paranormal, although myself I had several encounters with entities before. So the biggest reason is at that time I was retired, and due to my for health reasons, and Josh came about, and I needed a hobby to get myself out of the house, and Josh offered that to me. And I remember our first case was in Kimberly, wasn't it?
Yep, it was in Kimberly.
And it was pretty awesome. The first time I got to see how Josh and the rest of the guys operated. And it was great, and I decided, this is definitely for me. And we've been on, I don't know, you said I had over 100 cases under my belt.
Yeah.
The last time you checked.
Roughly that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been a while. Some cases have been kind of spooky. Others, haven't been as spooky. We had one case where we got nothing, and that's very rare. I mean, sometimes you get something, and in this case, no. Our approach to this, as Kakana Paranormal Research Team, is twofold. One, a person is coming to us for help, meaning they're to a point in their lives where whatever's going on around them is a lot to deal with, and they're at a loss. Okay, even if, let's say, it could have been the person's imagination. That's up to us to help them identify what's going on. All right. Mm-hmm. So we're helping people in need. Secondly, and I lost my point on that. Secondly, it's we're also, while we're helping people, we're also people that debunk things. It's our job to make sure that if your claim is this way, and we have the evidence to support it based on audio, visual, like the cameras that we use, or just things that we experienced at the time, then we can say, okay, this most likely is a haunting.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
However, we don't always say it's a haunting. There are phenomenons besides a haunting that's going on, and in one case we found. Their environment was so negatively charged, meaning that there was so much energy, their surrounding property, because of the energy lines, electric lines that were going over the property, that it was causing all these effects. And when you have EMFs that are highly charging your property, you're going to have other problems, not only like mental issues, but also physical issues. People tend to get very sick in that environment, and we found several places where that was the case, and several people were actually experiencing potential paranormal experiences.
Yeah. So we're going to be talking about both the team and the paranormal in this because we want, you guys to learn about our team a bit more and also the paranormal because we do talk a lot about,
because the team is a paranormal research
paranormal
team,
topics in it. So, So basically, the mission statement of Kakana Paranormal Research Team is to help those affected by what could be paranormal activity. Also to document paranormal activity and educate the public more on the paranormal field. We take a scientific, forensic, and slightly metaphysical approach to all investigations. Any evidence that we gather must be based on facts and not opinions. We use our team's psychic abilities to help us figure out what's going on in a property if we cannot debunk something. However, anything that they feel must be backed up by solid evidence/research or it will not be presented to the client. We will always begin investigations as skeptics to debunk or to attempt to debunk the claims of activity. If unsuccessful, then and only then will we declare the property to have possible paranormal activity. We strive to do our utmost best to help further the paranormal field by being the utmost professional that we can possibly be, and by being a trusted and respectable team. We use standard and advanced equipment to acquire both visual and audible evidence. We do not and will never use a Ouija board to investigate. Our investigations are entirely based on facts. We will not accept evidence that could be debunked. If we cannot debunk a piece of evidence, then and only then will we declare it to be possibly paranormal. We will never tell a client that their location is haunted unless we have appropriate evidence to support it. We do not charge for investigations. That would be our mission statement right there.
That's right. I mean, our job is here to assist those in need. And believe it or not, often a lot of people that we came across, they were barely making it. They were from paycheck to paycheck. So why will we, burden them more with a fee?
Exactly.
So that's kind of our motto and our philosophy.
Yep. And we have I think we have about 7 or 8 members, possibly 9. I can't think off the top of my head because I'm not going to name anyone. We have me, David. Well, then there's Stephanie. But any further than that, I'm not going to name.
The dream team.
Yeah. And there's, let's see. Somewhere around 8 or 9, because I don't want there to be like silence on here. Anyway, and we do also do forensic stuff with investigations if need be, because my fiancée Stephanie, she has an Associates of Applied Science degree in forensic science. So she is our forensic scientist on the team.
And let's talk about her specialty. We actually had one case that it took us almost 2 years before we could sample using forensic science, and it was very revealing to us. While we can't say what it is because we really don't know, we were able to determine that what's that called? The
ectoplasm?
Yeah, well, the samples that we provided for her to test, it was about like glowing paint, and it appeared like glowing paint, but we also had a theory because the way it was designed, that it was more than that. And when she tested it, not only was she able to show that this wasn't paint, but in the last test, it was sample off of the wall where a symbol was being created while we were investigating. That whatever the material was and the paint from the wall actually separated while she was conducting the test on the sample. And the only thing we could see and understand about it is that there was possibly ectoplasm, but we can't prove. How do you test for ectoplasm? You know what I mean? So it's kind of like a test that kind of showed us something, that there was something going on that was unnatural, but we can't prove it was ectoplasm.
Exactly. Excuse me, I just yawned. So throughout the past, since 2009, we've had over 100 cases. A lot of those are not posted on our website strictly just because A lot of times cases can be solved with a walkthrough, a simple phone call. Sometimes they don't want us to post anything about the case on our website, stuff like that. We used to get about 4 to 5 case requests a month. Now we get maybe 1 a month.
If we're lucky.
Yeah. We get about maybe 1 application in a month, one to 2, because like I said, with the shows dying down, I mean, even people's interests, in joining a team are dying down a bit. We've had over 25 members, and only roughly about 40% of investigators in training, only that amount make it to full investigator status. And why I say that is because we pretty much, unless you have a criminal record, because we do have a strict criminal record policy on the team, unless you have a criminal record, we pretty much let you be on the team just to see how it is and everything. When I say only roughly 40% of investigators, is because once you come onto the team as an investigator, you literally do everything that a regular investigator does. However, you're just an investigator in training because you're learning. And then a lot of investigators in training, once they come onto the team, they're like, this is a lot more work than it looks like on the TV shows.
Yeah.
So they're like, you know what? Maybe this isn't for me. So then they bow out of the team, or they
just disappear.
or they just disappear, because we've had some of those. We've been featured in newspapers, on the radio. We've actually been featured. We've been featured on. We did an interview, both audio and visually, for Midwest Communications, which is a communications company that owns quite a significant amount of radio stations throughout the Midwest. We are a nonprofit organization. We became a nonprofit organization in June of 2014. So, what is the paranormal? Well, the paranormal basically means something that can't be explained through scientific or logical reasoning. Something that's unusual. Now, the paranormal doesn't mean just ghosts and spirits. There are other aspects of the paranormal. We are just touching on ghosts today. However, we will touch on all these other aspects of the paranormal in future shows. So we have UFOs, which is ufology. Ufology is the study of that. We have cryptozoology, which is the study of Bigfoot and mysterious creatures. And then we have seriology, which is the study of crop circles. We have anomalies, which is kind of like the Paulding Light in Michigan, if you've ever heard of that. It's basically not like necessarily, it's mysterious things that doesn't really have much, it's like, you're not really seeing a ghost, you're just, because with the Paulding Light, you're just seeing...
What do you call it, a Paulding?
The Paulding Light up in Paulding, Michigan.
Okay.
Basically, you can see a light coming closer and closer to you, and then it just disappears. And some people have said that it's debunked. Some people have said that it hasn't been debunked. And basically, it's still a mystery.
So this would also fall under the booms that everybody heard throughout the world.
Exactly. It's mysterious things that might not have to do with ghosts, that is still like, wait, what?
Well, and when we talk about the booms,
yeah,
we're talking about the sound of explosions, and there's no reports of them anywhere, and they're usually like, often, I know Russia had quite a few. We recently have one here in the Midwest.
Yep. That
everybody heard, and it's kind of like almost like when a plane breaks the sound barrier. Okay, there's this sound, and it's just like everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And scientists have no idea what's causing this.
Right. Exactly. And then there's also Loch Ness Monster, which does sort of fit under cryptozoology, but being that the Loch Ness Monster is so big, it kind of just has a category of its own, as well as Bigfoot and stuff like that.
Correct, and they've never actually truly seen it. I mean,
exactly.
There's been like photographs, and a lot of people believe it's a hoax.
Yeah,
but it's an old legend.
Yep.
I mean, it goes back way before.
Yep.
I'd say, I don't even know when, just a long time ago.
Yeah. And that's all I'll say about it, because we got shows lined up for Bigfoot and Loch Ness Monster and all that. So, a lot of paranormal shows used to exist. None of the shows that I'm about to name exist anymore. But you know, you had Ghost Hunters, which was the most popular one on television.
That's the TAPS, right?
It lasted the longest. That was TAPS, the Atlantic Paranormal Society, right? Something like that. I don't know. I never really watched it. You had Ghost Hunters International, which was it was a different group of people who also made appearances on Ghost Hunters that did international stuff like castles and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But the thing is that Jay and Grant also did.
We met one of those guys.
Yeah, Ghost Hunters International. I mean, Ghost Hunters also did international stuff. But anyway, I'm friends with Scott Templeman on Facebook, and we're friends and stuff like that. And met Paul Bradford and whatever. Then there was Ghost Hunters Academy, where it was literally as it sounds. You brought people were auditioned to come onto the show to investigate with the actual with cast members who were on Ghost Hunters International and Ghost Hunters, and they all competed to be like the best ghost hunter, like the most qualified. Yeah, exactly, like kind of like that. And then there was Paranormal Witness, where they didn't follow teams. Paranormal Witness this is where they actually focus more on the client side of the story.
Well, they took cases that had already been investigated. Okay, yeah. And then they used all the information and made an episode out of it.
Exactly.
So a lot of it was based on facts. Often, they would go to cases back from the 50s and 60s and even before that. So there was a lot of information, like let's say from the church.
Yeah.
Documentation, and so they would take the info and then turn it into a script.
Yeah. Basically that. It would be a case that had already been done and concluded. They would put on TV, and like a lot of like the scenes of basically the only real people in it were just the client.
Yeah. And then the investigator, but they wouldn't mention the investigator.
They would also bring on only one member of the team that investigated, usually the founder. And they would do interviews with them. However, any film shots where the team would be investigating or the client would be reacting to something, that was all acting. That would be they would bring on actors to do
Correct.
That. Reenacting how the case actually was.
The thing is our team actually dealt with Paranormal Witness. It's the production company's out of the UK, out of the United Kingdom. Remember that?
Yep.
And one of our cases, I kind of brought it to the show, and they were looking at possibly using one of the cases, but then we never heard back from them. So
right. But yeah, and they also did nothing on the show. It wasn't faked at all. Nothing on the show was faked. They just didn't bring the case onto the production team until it was done. So they didn't have like cameras following the people around, so they basically just reenacted the case using actors. Yeah. But the evidence that they played was real, and they actually had the actual client and the actual a member of the team, like I said, usually the founder, doing on-camera interviews. Correct. And stuff like that. And then there's Paranormal State and Ghost Adventures, and Paranormal State and Ghost Adventures, which were similar to Ghost Hunters and Ghost Hunters International, where they would be like one guy was the star. In this case,
usually the lead guy.
Yeah, in this case for Paranormal State it was Josh Boyle, and for Ghost Hunters it was Zach Bagans. Which
Adventurers, you mean?
That's what I said, didn't I?
You said Hunters.
I said Ghost Hunters. Oh, Ghost Adventures was Zach Bagans.
Which I watched a lot of his shows, and remember I said I wasn't big into it.
Yeah.
Even though I became a paranormal researcher.
Right.
But my family and I actually sat down for like maybe 2 or 3 seasons, and he was very entertaining, but there were moments where I felt like he had a tendency of taking his colleagues and throwing them into the thick of things by themselves, and I would always complain. I'm like, why would he do that? Why would he send them like in a very desolate area?
Oh, right.
By themselves, and even the guy's like, I don't want to go there. You know?
Right. And then we have Haunted Collector, that starred John Zaffis. who John Zaffis is actually the nephew of Ed and Lorraine Warren.
Oh.
And that was similar to Ghost Hunters International, Paranormal State, and Ghost Adventures. However, it was also different because in Paranormal Witness, they were looking for an object that was the set focus of all this energy in the place, on the property. And they would, once they found that object, they would remove it from the property, and John Zaffis would put it in his paranormal museum.
Well, yeah, because he had attachments to him.
Exactly. And then I've never seen Ghost Mine, so I have no idea what that was, what that show was, what the kind of setup of that show was. The Haunted, A Haunting, and My Ghost Story were all similar to Paranormal Witness, and then Deep South Paranormal was similar to Ghost Hunters. Yeah. It was a team that the show picked up from the South,
Arkansas or someplace, or
I think
Georgia,
somewhere around there. That was actually called Deep South Paranormal.
Yeah.
And then Ghost Stalkers. The Ghost Stalkers lasted, like, I think, at least one season. I'm not sure if they made it to a second season, but that was... Ghost Stalkers was similar to, Paranormal State and Ghost Adventures and stuff like that, where it was, like, one person was the star, you know.
Everybody else was a servant. Well, that's what I mean. In Ghost Adventurers... Yeah. It really felt... I mean, you knew that Zach was in charge. Well,
yeah, because let's think about it this way. You look at Ghost Hunters. Everybody remembers exactly who was on Ghost Hunters. You got Jason Hawes, Grant Wilson. There was also...
and they all worked equally.
Yeah, and there was
together.
also Steve Gonzalez. Yeah. And then there was Steve Tango.
I don't know any of their names. I just watched their show.
Amy Bruni.
Yeah, I remember her.
It's just everyone knew what their names were, because it just seemed like, even though everybody knew that Jay and Grant were in charge, they all were kind of, they all kind of did their own thing, But with Paranormal State and Ghost Adventures, you knew that those two head people were in charge. You didn't know who anybody else was.
Well, and it was very hierarchy.
Well, exactly.
And that bothered me, because you know how we are. While you're the founder, we're all kind of equal to each other.
Exactly, because from when David first started, he used to actually refer to me as the boss, and I kept telling him, "Don't call me that."
Well, and to this, I mean, you're the head guy. You started this foundation,
right? Exactly.
This organization.
Yeah.
So I still give you that respect, even though sometimes I slap you upside the head.
Yeah. So now this is where the whole thing about the people going onto a paranormal team because they like the show and not really realizing that there's a lot of more work put into it than they see on the show. Mm-hmm. Paranormal shows versus reality is, in reality, you have 6 hours of investigation, and on the show that there's 6 hours of 6+ hours. I mean, up to 12 hours.
If you're lucky.
Yeah, investigation cut down into a 30-minute case. Cases take about a month to complete in real life. There's also hours of research that goes into this. 100+ hours of evidence review cut down into just a few minutes, because on these shows, they only show like 30 seconds or like a minute or two of them reviewing the evidence, and that's it.
There's a reason for it. I mean, the public would not be patient for 100 hours of
Exactly. And then the evidence is sometimes exaggerated. And what I mean by that is there has been, and I think that this is one of the reasons why they decided to stop doing the show, Ghost Hunters. There has been former cast members that have come forward saying that there has been evidence that has been exaggerated simply for ratings.
But that's very common, though.
That's very common with a lot of paranormal shows, exactly. And
it's all about the mighty dollar.
Exactly, because that's one of the things. It's like when a network comes to you, or a production company comes to you and basically says, "Hey, you want to do a show," and you sign a contract. Until that contract ends, they own you.
Yep.
If they want to create fake evidence, like, you have to do that unless, and if you refuse to, then basically you're in breach of your contract or whatever. So
Correct.
that's how it works. They own you once you sign that contract, and you have to do what they want.
Well, we were approached by several production companies, and one of them actually spent 3 days with us. And while they were there, they wanted to improve our dynamics, so they added someone that we sort of had a bad history with, and put him in the mix of our group. And they filmed everything, okay, and we realized that this is not how we operate, okay. And, of course, nothing came of it, thank God. But we got a taste of how things are. I mean, everything from the filming to even the meetings were controlled by them.
Oh, yeah, and that's another thing, is that if they don't like the dynamic of the group, or, like, they think that, oh, you have too little members, they will actually interview people to bring onto the show. You don't get to interview new team members. They will just interview random people and say, okay, you're on the show. And then it's just like, those people are cast members of the show, not your team. So, like, for instance...
And what did we discover? They are more hyped up. They will pretend there's something going on.
Exactly.
And we were looking at them going, there's nothing over there.
Like, for instance, when Ghost Hunter started, they brought Steve Gonzalez in as a cast member. He was never a part of TAPS.
Yeah.
They brought him on as a cast member. He eventually did join TAPS, but like I said, a lot of those people that they brought on, the only two original members of TAPS were Jay and Grant. Everybody else they just brought on as cast members until they eventually joined
and
TAPS.
the women as well, huh?
Exactly,
Yeah,
yep.
to kind of
Pretty
even
much
it up.
all of them,
Yeah.
yep. And that's how it is with shows.
Yes, yes.
So there's 4 types of hauntings that we deal with in the paranormal field. There's residual, which is the activity being like a tape recorder playing over and over again. It's the energy of a spirit. It will not interact with you. It'll just simply go about his business. Then you have intelligent. In an intelligent haunting, the spirit will actually attempt to interact with you. It is actually aware that you're there. With a poltergeist haunting, poltergeist hauntings are a lot more active than most hauntings. Common reports of a poltergeist haunting is things moving on their own, books falling off of shelves. The best way to describe it, I'd say, is more like a prankster ghost.
And that's saying it mildly.
I know, saying it mildly. And then there's demonic, which is extremely dangerous. It's the worst type of haunting and involves possession. Now, Dave and I were discussing this the other day. There's poltergeist and demonic hauntings are very similar, but also very different. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the thing was, sometimes it's very difficult to distinguish between a poltergeist and a demonic, because it's you got to determine who is the target here, okay, and what does that involve. You have often you have a lot of issues that occur with the person when they're under a demonic situation where their entire personalities change. They end up having bruises, rashes, hives. They end up hurting themselves or become suicidal. One site that I looked at to research it said that people under demonic influence act like they're bipolar, and that hits home for me.
Yeah.
They have the swings, the mood swings and stuff like that. So if you know a person that's usually easygoing, happy person that loves life, is very active in your community, and the next thing you know, they're just the opposite. They're angry. They do, if they're a churchgoer and they stop going to church, you can't even talk to them about God or anything, and because they become violent. Then you might want to consider, okay, this person definitely is dealing with a potential poltergeist.
Exactly.
I mean, was a demonic entity. Where poltergeist, it's usually how to best describe a poltergeist.
It's just
some of the things are similar to a demon.
Yeah, with like how much energy this thing has. However, it's not like a poltergeist is not theoretically capable of possessing a human. So
well, and that's not its target anyway. It's
right.
It's more there
to just irritate the crap out of you.
Yeah, it's there for a reason, and every reason's different.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing about Josh's list is those are the most basic hauntings. There is one more that I wanted to add, historical hauntings, okay? And those are usually caused by, they're almost residual in the sense, but they happen in locations that were a lot of, like, war areas. Gettysburg is very famous for a historical haunting.
Yep.
Other areas where there was, like, tragedies through fire,
Yep.
you know, just mass devastation and massive. The concentration camps report
exactly
to have those kind of residual energies.
Yep. So as far as paranormal terms, now the most common two paranormal terms that you've probably heard of. We're gonna go through like the most popular ones here. You've probably heard of EVP, EMF, and apparition for like the three most popular ones. So now EVP stands for electronic voice phenomena or frequency, something like that. They're basically sounds or voices that are caught on the recorder that are not heard at the time of recording because you cannot hear them with your ears. Your ears can only hear from a certain frequency to another certain frequency. Voice recorders, electronics, can pick up frequencies and noises that the human ears are not capable of hearing.
Now that would fall under white noise, right?
Well, that too.
Yeah.
EMF stands for, I meant to, when I said electronic voice frequency, I did not mean to say frequency. I meant that
phenomena.
Yeah, electronic voice phenomena. That's what EVP. When I was saying it means it could stand for two different things, I meant to say that with EMF. EMF is the next one, which can stand for electromagnetic frequency or force. That's what I meant to say. That would be basically the energy around us, the energy that a spirit gives off. That's literally what it is. Electromagnetic frequency. It's the energy around you, in the air and everywhere.
I think this is a good time to talk about how spirits utilize EMFs.
Oh yeah, I'm getting there.
Okay.
And then we have matrixing or pareidolia. I've never known how you pronounce that correctly, but I think it's pareidolia, but I'm not sure.
Doyle?
Something like that.
Pareidolia?
So I don't know. It's basically the eye's natural tendency to create hidden images within images. Now we have aliens, visitors from other planets.
Very basic.
Yeah, but we'll talk about that more in UFOs. Then we have apparition, which is the appearance of a ghost or a spirit. We have the aura, which is the energy or life force surrounding all living individuals. A case is just what you would call the entire investigation process. The investigation is what you would call the on-site investigation alone. Cold spots are what is believed to be the spirit using the energy around it to manifest itself, which leads us into manifest, and where David will say what he was going to say. A manifest is a spirit showing itself in some way to you.
Correct. And going back to the EMF, the electromagnetic frequency or force, as he likes to say, often many spirits don't create their own energy, okay, except poltergeist and demons. So any other category uses its environment, such as electricity, and in our modern society, we have a lot of it,
Yep.
okay? Some homes that we go to, their frequency is so high, we're thinking, well, no wonder you're seeing things, as often as you do, because in the old days, all you had was a candle, you know what I mean, or a fire, and that's a natural energy.
Yep.
Today, you got wires running all through the house, and if you're not lucky, you have wires outside of your home. So now you're amplifying the EMFs, and therefore, a lot more sightings.
Exactly. So, some of the basic equipment that's used in the paranormal field. We have infrared DVR system. Now, it's theoretical that ghosts like to come out at night. They like to be out at night because, everybody's sleeping. They like to be on their own, stuff like that.
Plus, they like to be in the shadows.
Yeah, exactly, and they like to be in the shadows. So we use infrared DVR system, which they don't create any light to the human eye. You set them up, and they create this tiny red glow, which the human eye can see. However, they emit infrared light. Like I said, humans cannot see. However, if you shine an infrared light, an infrared camera, which can pick up infrared light, and another infrared light, you can see how much light these things give off that you cannot see. Mm-hmm. A lot.
Well, it's, if you're viewing this from like behind a monitor, it's almost blinding.
Exactly. Yeah. You will see how much light these things can give off, but just looking at them, they won't blind you at all because human eyes cannot see infrared light. So therefore, all you see is just a tiny red glow. That's it. Yep. Next, we have EMF detectors, which is what you use to detect an EMF field. Electricians use them.
And what is that called, though?
What?
What's the measurement? What's that called?
Oh, it's an EMF meter.
Milligauss.
Oh, that's what. Yeah, that's what you're talking about. That's how you
measure it.
Yeah, that's what you're talking about. Voice recorder. I mean, everyone knows what a voice recorder is. We don't use any special equipment to get EVP. It's literally just your everyday voice recorder that you can just buy at a store.
Correct.
Laser grid is something that emits green dots on it that has mirrors inside that emits those green dots everywhere. And the theory is that if a spirit were to walk past the line of it, those green dots push out. Yep. They bulge out a bit, and you can tell that there's something there.
There's movement. Yep.
Exactly. Now think about this. Have you ever seen that one movie in Paranormal Activity movie where they're taking that Xbox Connect, and you cannot see the green. You see how the Xbox Connect detects your body, but you cannot see that with your own eyes. That is exactly how a laser grid works, except you can actually see the dots that the laser grid is emitting with your own eyes. Correct. Then you have infrared motion sensor. It's an infrared motion sensor that has infrared technology in it where it can sense motion in the dark.
Yep.
Infrared temperature gauge. That infrared temperature gauge measures surface temperature.
Which means the walls.
Yeah,
the
exactly. There's ambient, which measures the air around you, and then there's the infrared temperature gauge, which measures the surface around
Correct.
you. Then we have infrared video camera, which works exactly like a infrared DVR system, but it's handheld. And then we also use tripods to set up our equipment and whatnot.
Yep.
Now there's tons of equipment that you can use in the paranormal field.
Oh yeah, like the G8s.
There's a lot.
GS8s.
Yep. So we are, there's also the non-metaphysical side, but we're going to touch that in a different episode.
Sure.
Like some other equipment, about some other equipment that's used in the paranormal field. There's stuff like REM pods off the top of my head.
Yeah,
REM pods can be used.
Ghost boxes, as they call them.
REM pods give off. They pump EMF electricity into the air so that ghosts can manifest themselves.
It's easier for them then.
Yeah, so it's there's the ghost box.
The ghost boxes, they come in different forms.
Yeah,
you can get them with 2 speakers, one. And Ghost Adventurers, they use a lot of it, and it was kind of refreshing because sometimes watching the shows helps you to better understand the field.
Yeah,
and it's interesting what can come through.
And it's a ghost box is basically like I don't want to say tampered with or manipulated, but like a revised radio, I guess, where it's programmed to continually keep scanning radio stations.
Correct.
And then it's said that if you hear like complete sentences or like words come through that like make sense together, then it could be possibly the ghost.
It's like white noise.
Exactly.
The only difference is, like Josh said, the only difference is it's actually designed to go through thousands of frequencies a second.
Exactly.
Okay. And that's radio station and other stuff.
And there's also K2 meters.
K2, yeah.
And there's flashlights, which is kind of obvious. I like to use LED instead of the regular ones because you got to remember you're working in the dark, and just the regular ones are way too bright. I just feel like LEDs really get the job done a lot better. But we're out of time, so we'll see you next week, and talk to you later.
God bless.